All right, everybody, we are back here on Greg Heim's Cross Line. You know, transit strikes, holidays kept us apart. I'm sure Nadler didn't even miss me because he's probably doing cool stuff.
Always miss you, Greg. It's good. It's good to be back. It's good to see you.
You know what it's good to be? In the NBA Finals. Wow. That's what it's good to be. So, in honor of the Knicks, and you know, I've been a little hard on Jalen Brunson.
I was gonna say it's been so long since we've been here. I feel like we were questioning whether or not he deserved a spot.
He's got to earn it
on the table.
Right. These are the spot for winners. You got Kidry, you got Patino, they got rings.
So regardless of what happens,
you got a Greg Heim bobblehead. You don't need to explain why he's here.
Are you saying regardless of what happens the next couple of weeks, he has a reserve spot right now?
I think so because
he's got to win.
But he is. I mean, in Game 1 of the Cleveland series, he was so clutch in the second half. It's something about he.
And you shut the game off, correct?
No, I fell asleep.
No, you did not.
I fell asleep. My son's like, Graham, like, Dad, they're coming back. They're coming back. And I'm like, if you woke me up and they don't come back, you're punished. It was the Indiana game in reverse last year, and but he seems to save it for the second half. And when you got Shamet shooting, what was it, 11 for 12 or whatever?
12 for 13, I think it was.
He's got to get credit for playing defense on Donovan Mitchell, and that's in that fourth
Who
quarter.
needs to play defense when you're shooting such a high percentage?
When you're down 25 points, you need stops, and he shut Donovan Mitchell down.
And you don't think that is part of his game. You know,
right.
Who knew it?
That's right.
Just to see the team come together at the perfect, every single guy is clicking. I mean, Bridges disappeared for months.
He's shooting over 70%.
And now he's like one of our best players, and OG is doing it. Hart, Brunson,
I'd still rather
Cat.
have the 5 first-round picks.
I don't know. I don't know.
Would you?
I don't know.
Look, when the Rangers won in '94, you know, the Knicks were still going, and I said, you know what? Just give me the Rangers win. I don't care what happens to the Knicks. And we came within a John Starks three-pointer of winning that thing, and then we could. But Houston, I think, was a better team. But you never know, because now it's like the Knicks haven't won. I figured they would have won in the last.
By the way, everyone's a Knicks fan right now. I'm seeing people come out of nowhere all of a sudden wearing Knicks gear and talking about the Knicks. Like, where have you been the last 20 years?
If you go to a game, you have to be a diehard because the tickets are insane.
By the way, I went to the watch party at MSG. So
before they banned them?
It was game 3 against Cleveland at Madison Square Garden. 18,000 people to watch the game on the Jumbotron.
That's crazy.
They did starting lineups. They had the cheerleaders. They had concessions open.
What was the energy like?
Well, of course they had concessions open.
Unbelievable. Yeah, well, it was a $10 ticket to get in.
And then did everyone go on to 7th Avenue afterwards and celebrate?
Of course.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's why I said it in the column last week. I'm the biggest Yankee and Ranger guy, but there's nothing like when the Knicks are good in New York. It's just, this is a basketball,
Scott always says it. Say it. What's your line? New York City is better when the Knicks are good.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny, though. The last time they won a championship, New York City was a mess. It was the early 70s, and we were going broke. When you think about it, that was a terrible time in New York City's history. Even the Knicks winning almost didn't save the city. But it's great. We're looking forward to a rematch.
How do you feel about it?
I'd rather play that. We can't beat. The two teams we can't beat got beaten for us, and that's Detroit and OKC. Mm-hmm. You didn't want to say we beat the Spurs in the NBA Cup for what that's worth. I think
they're both very different teams now. I
think with Wemby, if you can play him tight enough, I think we have the people that could frustrate him. I think OG can give him a little bit of a fit, and
I just don't know who Cat guards if OG is guarding him.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
And he's going to guard Hart probably. Wemby. He's a monster. He's very tough to ultimately game plan for.
The important part is to not have any hangover from this layoff.
But they just did this with Cleveland.
They had
after they swept the Sixers.
You don't want to drop down 25 points. They have this aura of invincibility, and if they were just 2 or 3 days off, psychologically going into the next round, the other team and you have a different attitude. But now, if you come out a little bit flat, all of a sudden there's question marks. Like, you want to just put a knife through their heart, blow them out the first game.
Oh, you win their first game on their court, they're going to be, oh man, are we going to get swept too?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, we'll see. You know what? The two great teams, and it would be something for New York. But I don't think this is a sweep, no matter who wins. I think this is going to. Oh, by the way, I haven't had really a chance to rub it in. We were making the predictions for the Sixers series.
Yeah, you
guys said 6 games. I said 5. I didn't get it perfect, but I was better than you guys.
Yes.
And I mocked you.
A gentleman's sweep.
I know. Broken clock is right twice a day.
That's mean.
But,
now I'm going to ask you the tough questions, Shar.
I did think about that, and kudos to you. I don't think anybody thought this playoffs would go like this.
The unknown there was how good Maxey was going to be, because you can't stop that guy when he's good, and how healthy Embiid was going to be. And it's funny because the game Embiid didn't play was the toughest game of the bunch, because Maxey just went off.
Right.
But you know what? It doesn't. None of that matters. We're winning games. We're looking good. They're going to take it seriously. They know what it takes to get prepared to win these big games.
That's right.
And you can't panic if you lose game 1. You know, you're on the road. So,
listen, this team is a playoff team. What we did last year to the Celtics in their gym twice, no one expected that.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. We'll see how, when Brunson penetrates and you got this long wingspan there. You can't shoot over him.
That's when you kick it out. You got to find the guys on the wings.
That's right.
All right. Well, we're going to get to the economics and housing part of this wonderful show.
More exciting.
Right after these messages, and coming to you, as always, from beautiful Studio 1873, conveniently located right outside my office. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Scott Nadler, VP of Mortgage Lending with Cross Country Mortgage. Want to slash your monthly payments or tap into your home's equity? Let's make it happen fast, smooth, and stress-free. Call me today and let's get those savings rolling.
Sedge & Zuckerman is a boutique residential law firm guiding you and your clients every step of the way with a solution-oriented approach. Make sure to work with a deal maker and not a deal breaker. Contact us today at sznylaw.com.
Back. So good to be back. All right.
Ray fell asleep during the first segment.
He falls asleep during every segment. We got to get an electric shock thing, a collar, a shock collar to wake him up. All right. So I guess the biggest economic news last week was PCE came out. Now that we're back on normal schedules, it's easier to know when to expect this stuff. And it's not surprising. You know, core price is up 3.3% year over year. That's to be expected. Obviously, oil, even though we're talking about core, but again, everything has to be shipped, right, Scott? And so you see this, unlike tariffs, which don't cause widespread inflation. Just go look at the data. There's no evidence.
It's like we never left.
Yeah.
High oil prices do.
Yeah.
And so this has been now there's a fight to find a better inflation gauge where not only you exclude food and energy prices, because they can happen because of wars and droughts and frosts, but to take the biggest gains and the biggest declines and just ignore them all and just look for this median kind of thing. But that we're still spending the money, so I could see both arguments. But your rates have been up. That's not a surprise. Edged up a little bit last week.
I will say, within the last, today is not a great day in the market itself. We'll see what's happening now as we're filming this. But within the last couple of weeks, things have stabilized a little bit. It's so dependent upon oil and what the administration is saying about the war. So as things are changing on virtually a day-to-day basis right now, you're seeing a direct correlation between the words coming out of the administration and what's happening in the bond market and in turn interest rates. So it's so volatile and so dependent upon that a lot of the data that normally would impact what's happening in the market isn't impacting it to the degree that it typically would.
Now, Shar, it seems like every week we hear, all right, we have an agreement. We're getting close to an agreement. The Strait Hormuz is going to be open.
That's the problem.
And then it doesn't. When does the market say, you know what, we're not even listening anymore? Because it has the same reaction every time. You start hearing about, last week stocks closed at record highs. All 3 indexes were at record highs. At what point do you go, you know what, I'm not following this for like a 6th time?
I think we're past the point of listening to what these press clippings are and actually looking at the price of oil and see how those are being impacted, and that's how it's trickling down to our business. Again, we talked about this with the tariffs, and we're talking about it now. If you picked a person off the street and asked if the Strait of Hormuz is open or closed right now, are they planning on opening it? Do they have a deal? Do they not have a deal? Nobody's you can't keep track because every day, every press briefing is a different situation. Yes. So I don't think you can rely on what they're saying. And if you look at past performance, a lot of times the administration is using what they say in public to deceive or to disorient or to sort of
it's working to confuse us.
To come in the other way, because a lot of times you're we have a deal in place, and then all of a sudden, the other extreme is happening. So I think we're past that, but it is true that rates have been up. I've had clients who are now got a pre-approval, spent a month looking for a place, came back to lock in their rate, and all of a sudden rates are an eighth, a quarter higher in some instances than they were, and that's enough at certain price points to either price you out or to sort of say, okay, 1 second, are things going to get worse before they get better?
But you are telling people what? I mean, you think about it. A lot of them got greedy when it dipped below 6. Wait for 5.5. Now it's about 1% higher than that, give or take.
Right now, last couple weeks or so, we have more of a locking bias. Okay. So if someone is within 30, 60 days of closing and they have not locked in the rate yet, we're having serious conversations about that. The unknown, obviously, is when you're dealing with co-ops and the uncertainty of how long it might take them to approve someone. But when a board package is submitted, they should be within a 60-day timeline to close. So most of our clients are opting to lock it in because the thinking always is, would I rather be in a position where I lock in the rate and then interest rates go up, or would I rather be in a position, where I lock in the rate and interest rates go down, or I don't lock in the rate and then rates go up? Mm-hmm. So I can't say, well, you quoted me 6.3 last week and today it's 6.6. Can we get last week's rate? It doesn't work that way. But if someone's locks in at 6.3 and 3 weeks from now the rate drops below 6, there's more of an opportunity for someone to float that rate down.
Right.
The other layer of this also is that it's not just your borrower's interest rate. You have a lot of these co-ops coming off of their blanket mortgages that they took right around COVID at those low interest rates, and they're going to have to refinance. If you're 7 to 10 years out of that time, all of a sudden mortgage payments on the co-op can sometimes double. Yep. And if your attorney is not looking at those financials and making it clear to the borrower that the budget's going to be thrown off track next year or in 2 years, where your maintenance can go up, that can be a big problem also. Yep. It's not just the borrower's interest rate.
The advice I would give people, going to your point about whether to lock or not, is what's going to upset you more? Mm-hmm. You have the two scenarios. I lock in, the rate goes down. It's like, okay, but you were okay with that rate.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's the downside risk you want to hedge against right now, because this war isn't ending. The increase in inflation isn't ending. Although the monthly increase wasn't bad, so that offered a little bit of hope. But it's 1 month; you got to wait and see. And remember, every day the war goes on, the government is spending money on the war, which is going to bring up mortgage rates because they're going to have to go borrow that money, which is going to push the 10-year up and make us all miserable.
Right.
And it's the spring is moving along with or without. Now we've seen some of the national numbers look okay. Pending home sales have been up a little bit. Now, what percentage for both of you, the people you're working with, are just need people that say, you know what, I just got to make a decision and go forward? Is that the people you're having the most success with now?
I mean, we're very busy right now. I know you guys are super busy too. So I think there's always going to be a handful of clients who are in a need situation. We have a couple divorces right now where clients are in a situation where they have no choice, but they have to buy or move. But I think by and large, also when you put it up against what they're paying in rent or what they've been paying and the price that they're locking it. So you can lock in a rate, but you're also locking in a price for that property as well. So I think most of our clients are not so set on a specific rate that they need a specific payment, whether it makes sense or not. They're sort of within a range. And as long as it falls within that range and doesn't go too far above it, they're sticking with the process.
Right. One of the questions I actually had is, for a long time, and we've talked about this before also, you've been telling, or buyers have been told, don't worry, just close. You'll be able to refinance in the next 2 to 3 years. And now they're calling
up Scott. Now they're going, no, they're calling up their mortgage lender saying, you told me by now, because remember, inflation started to really rise in 22.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 4 years later, basically. And you told me.
Yeah. And if you didn't hit it at the right time, it wasn't going to be worth it to refinance. But, one of the analyses used to be, do I get a 30-year fix or do I get a 7-1 ARM in anticipation of refinancing? How does the spread between those two work? Because it used to be a 30-year fix and a 7-1, 10-1 ARM. There was a significant difference in rate and consequently your payment, where maybe it was beneficial to roll the dice and say, let me take the shorter term and I'll refinance. But I've noticed now that the payments between the 30-year fix and the 10-1 ARM are not such a big. It's not such a big delta between.
And before
them.
you talk about the rate, why don't you just explain how these ARMs work?
Yeah. So I'm going to get to both.
And
of
ARM
those
stands
things.
for adjustable rate mortgages.
Right. So first of all, when it comes time to refinance, when it was February, prior to the war starting, rates were 1% lower than where they were in February 2025. Right. So we were on that downward trajectory where we were moving in the right direction, where a lot of clients were quote unquote in the money, where it made sense for them to refinance. The war threw everything off, rightfully so. I mean, it's when a war happens, it's going to impact every market. Yeah. So ARMs are adjustable rate mortgages, right? So there's a 5-year option, a 7-year option, and a 10-year option. They're all 30-year loans. They're just broken up a little bit differently. So if you took a 7-year ARM, the rate would be fixed from now until 2033. The rate would not change. You could refinance, pay off the loans, sell the property at any point. There's no penalties for that. Starting in the 8th year going forward, the rate's going to adjust every year. So year 8's going to be one rate, year 9, year 10, and so forth. You have no idea what the rate is going to be in those subsequent years, but you do know the max, the cap as far as how high the rate can go in that 30-year life.
Well, they take the index and they add a percentage to it. So there's
Correct.
a formula of what it is. You just don't know where it'll be
Correct.
in 7 years.
Exactly. In terms of that spread.
What's the advantage? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
What's the advantage of taking an adjustable rate over a 30-year fixed if you're worried about where the rates will be?
It's all about the spread. So what are you saving per month on an ARM versus that fixed, right? So hypothetically speaking, you're saving $500 a month on an ARM versus a fixed over 7 years, it'd be $42,000.
Right.
So if you feel like even if in year 8 your rate and in turn payment goes up, what do you care? You just saved $42,000. Not to mention, if rates go up and you invest that money is also growing for you. So you're turning your mortgage into an asset as opposed to a liability. Right. But right now you're right. Like the spread for a standard Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, there's in some instances the ARM is higher than a 30-year fix, and a lot of that happened when the Fed started raising rates. And there's less demand right now for those ARMs. As the Fed lowers rates, there's more activity in the market. You'll see that spread start to widen. This is where a lot of portfolio lenders come into play. So we have portfolio lenders that we work with who may not even have a 30-year fix. All they have is an adjustable rate mortgage, and they're not selling their loan to a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Right. So their rates could be very attractive. We're working with the client right now who was turned down by another bank, and like we're doing an ARM for her through a portfolio lender. So like that's a perfect example where, and that happens to be a single. I think it's a single. It's
actually a 2-family.
Yeah.
House.
So it's a 2-family home. So we're not
Illegal
worried about the
3-family house.
So in that case, I just mentioned that because we're not worried about the co-op or the condo.
Right. In
In some instances where it's a tough to finance building, that portfolio lender may have an issue with the building. So if someone says, I just want an ARM, it's like, well, I got to play matchmaker. I need to match up your loan with the right lender to get you the financing. And this specific lender has a great ARM, they won't lend in this building.
Right. And one of the things Greg has also mentioned is that 7 years or 10 years that you take the adjustable rate, a lot of people feel comfortable in that despite the unknown, because they know in those 7 years, they may be selling, they may be moving on. It's a short-term living situation, or they just got married, they're gonna have kids. So a lot of times, the adjustable rates could be a good fit for you, right?
But people, we see it here in Manhattan in particular. People are starting to realize the old rules don't apply. Like I think during the financial crisis, people realized that your home is no longer the ATM you thought it was. Right? I'm gonna buy it 3 to 5 years. I'll sell it. I'll move up to a bit larger apartment, whatever. That's not true. We've also seen people that have bought apartments 10 years ago or more that have no increase in the value of their apartment. A lot has to do with how renovated it is.
Right.
So I think people have had to adjust to this concept. And, you know, there is so much uncertainty going on now because we have inflation that's way too high because of the spike in oil. We don't know when the war is going to end. By the way, the stock market doesn't care about any of this. It just keeps setting records and records and records because companies are still making money. We have a new Fed chairman, Kevin
I will
Warsh,
say, though,
with
with the stocks, though, it's probably 12 to 20 companies that are driving the whole entire market.
But isn't that always the case? You know, a lot of people
don't know
have been
if it's
writing off the
skewed
last couple
this
of years
much.
on AI, like, oh, everybody's too happy about AI and NVIDIA, whatever it is. So it's funny.
And imagine when SpaceX comes into the market as well. Like it's these the weighted average of what these handful of companies are doing to the market. It's yes, the stock market itself is doing very well, but overall, it's not indicative of like the health of.
But when you think about
these
it,
companies,
you have the Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq. They all closed last week at records.
Mm-hmm.
So any way you slice it, it comes up peanuts, like the old commercial used to say. As I said, with the new Fed chairman, some people are like, oh, now we're going to get rate cuts, mortgage rates are going to go down. We've said too many times to count that what the Fed does has no direct link to what happens to mortgage rates. Cutting rates right now would be the worst thing they could do for inflation and interest rates because mortgage rates, 30-year mortgage rates would spike because the concern about inflation ramping up even higher than it is now would be too much.
right?
Now, you know.
By the way, that's a point a lot of people miss.
Well, they have to watch the show more, and then they'll, you know, they'll understand. All right, well, that's enough on mortgage rates and inflation and lions and tigers and bears. We're going to come back and talk about the stupidest tax we've ever heard of. See, aren't you curious? Now you're going to have to come back and see the next.
You hear the mayor saying, "Challenge accepted."
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, so here in beautiful New York, after almost 10 years of misery on me fighting this ridiculous tax, the Pied-à-Terre Tax has been passed and signed as part of a budget agreement. Basically, it slaps an extra surcharge. Technically, it's called a surcharge on non-primary residences. Pied-à-terre is just like a nice way. But the hard part is not only spelling Pied-à-terre correctly, putting the hyphens in, but putting that little symbol up. Like, I don't know how to get that. I got to copy and paste it from the internet because I don't know what alt-control thing I have to hit to get that stupid thing. So this is for you people out there that have the nerve to own a property in New York City, pay full property taxes, which by far is the largest tax New York City receives. The only tax Pied-à-terre owners don't pay is income tax, which is about a quarter of their tax revenues. So how dare you have a second home in New York City and, you know,
Come eat at our restaurants.
yeah, and support our economy and not use our services. Their argument is you benefit from how great the city is. Well, the reason you have money to make the city great is because, remember, they're not getting the co-op condo abatement. So they're paying 17.5% more in property taxes right there. They ain't riding the subways. The kids aren't going to the school. It's ridiculous.
They paid the mansion tax.
Right. You paid transfer tax. You paid all that stuff. You're paying your property tax. The couple of months you're here, you spend more money than thousands of citizens would, you know, the residents here. And to come out and do this when many cities around the world have tried this with all the same results. Home sales slow and prices go down because it's simple supply and demand. Demand will go down, especially for luxury apartments, when there is an extra tax put on them. You know, Rhode Island's just done this. Now they have something they call the Taylor Swift tax. That's actually what they're calling it because it's a tax on second homes because she bought this big spread there and had the nerve to want to hang out there sometime. This is a city that's supposed to welcome everybody, unless you have a second home here over these market value thresholds. And if you want to know what this actually means, if you have a co-op or a condo and your market value as per the city tax roll is $1 million or more, you're paying a rate ranging from 4% to 6.5%. Depending on the value. Think about that. If the market value on your apartment is $1 million, you're being slapped with a $40,000 property tax increase.
That doesn't necessarily mean market value is $1 million, right?
No, it means
Not
for
to get
tax
too much
purposes.
into the weeds.
Yeah, not to sound like a lawyer, God forbid, but due to state law, right, they're not allowed to use sales prices to value co-ops and condos. They have to value them as if they were rental buildings and then apportion the value out. Right, by co-ops, you have shares. By condos, you have a percent of common interest or square footage, or however you want to do it. Right. So these values are not accurate to begin with. And what happens is they're actually lower than they should be. So they had to find the sweet spot because it's supposed to target 5 million and more. So they're saying that the way we calculate this, a market value of about $1 million is really a $5 million market value. So there's a lot of buyers out there who are saying, well, wait, if I pay $5 million for this, what's going to be my tax? And we keep telling them that what you pay for it has nothing to do with it. It really, not for the next 2 years. If it's a class 1 property, which is a 1 to 3 family homes, they do value those based on sales prices. So those are more accurate, and the tax starts at $5 million, and you're paying anywhere from 0.8% to 1.3%. That's what they call phase 1, in which Doris gets her oats. Ray may get that. No? It's the beginning of Let It Be. Right before two of us, Lennon starts vamping on stuff, and he goes, phase 1, in which Doris gets her oats. Man, 4 people in this room outside of me, nobody knows the Beatles.
I know the Beatles, and I love that song. I never heard that part of it.
Anyhow, so phase 1 for 2 years is we're going to use the values that we have. The 1 to 3 family homes, that's not going to change. That's the same in phase 1 and phase 2.
Sorry, and it officially goes into effect
July 1st, because that's when the fiscal year begins.
Right.
They have to notify you by the end of August that, yes, you, Scott Nadler, have to pay. How dare you have a second home? You have to pay this. And it'll probably be in the bill due July, the November bills that are due in July. You'll have a chance to contest your primary residence-ness, if that's a correct legal term.
Yeah, it's actually in.
Or, a lot of that would be like, if you're getting a co-op condo abatement, obviously they'll feel comfortable, although it's not in the bill exactly, but they have methods of doing this. But here's where it gets really nuts. So beginning July 1st, 2028, we're in phase 2. You say, well, it should get better in phase 2. Phase 1 is like the soft roll out of this. So everything stays the same for 1 to 3 family homes. But now co-ops and condos will get a new market value based on comparable sales. Here's the kicker that people don't know. The way that they calculate market value for property taxes is not changing. That does not change. So the crazy way you pay taxes now on your co-ops and condos is not going to change for property tax. For this surcharge, you'll now be based on a comparable sales approach, which means you could see a vastly different value. You're going to see a different value because it should be near 5 million. But the question is, co-ops, which are grossly undervalued, because you have to compare them to rental buildings of the same age in the same area, that tends, since co-ops are older, that tends to be rent-stabilized buildings, and that's why co-ops have incredibly low market values for the entire building. You look at some of the luxury buildings on Park and Fifth, the market value for the whole building might be 90 million, which might be 3 sales in some of these buildings. So now you're going to contend with 2 values. So now you're going to go to the tax commission. Do you have to go twice? Because you have the right to contest this. So this seems like there could be a lot of legal fees in it for you. Shar Sedge, what do you say?
There's a lot to be said about this. So the first is that this administration came in saying tax the rich. But this isn't a tax the rich. This is a tax out-of-towners who own properties here.
Non-residents, yes.
Right.
Because how dare they not move here full-time and pay income tax?
The second is we need to get you a heart machine next time we talk about this because I feel your blood pressure.
It's been almost 10 years of my life, fighting this. Here's another thing that we proved this pretty clearly, I thought, that I'm not worried that this is going to crash the housing market. It's certainly not good for the luxury market, particularly the condo market, right? Co-ops have rules against subletting and pied-à-terres, so that may. By the way, first of all, this tax is stupid because it's avoidable. If Shar has a pied-à-terre and he doesn't want to pay this tax, he sells it.
That's right.
Or he makes it his primary residence. That doesn't make sense. If you want to do that, he would have done that in the first place. Or he rents it to someone who makes it their primary residence. Or he puts his kid in it. Now, he's a little young, right, to be in it. So, but you can put an immediate family member in there and avoid paying the tax.
But does that immediate family member have to pay New
no,
York City tax?
well, yes, it has to be. No, it doesn't have to be residents, and they don't have to pay rent, as I understand it.
So if you bought a condo for your son to live in this summer, that's $5 million or more, even though he lives in Buffalo, you wouldn't have to pay the Pied-à-Terre tax?
If you bought it and it's not the primary residence,
And it's a family member.
if it's in his name, I would think that he would have to pay it. But
No, if it's in your name
if it's in my name,
and you put him
but it's not his primary residence either.
Oh, okay.
So
It has to be his.
yeah, we don't want to get into specifics here. The problem is
Right.
with this is another problem with lawyers. They pass these bills and then the lawyers have to, they have to issue the rules.
And I'm kind of thinking the way that you're thinking also, like one thing we can say about rich people is they typically have really good accountants and good tax accountants and good lawyers. And, for example, if I lived elsewhere and I bought a second home here and I sold Loan Daddy merch out of my second home and I use it for business purposes, is there a way to use where it's not considered a second home and it won't be taxed that way? I don't know, but there's a lot of
We'll see how creative people can get. The problem is
they're going to have to,
it's not specific.
or they're just not going to invest in real estate.
Or let's say I'm living in, my apartment. I just bought another apartment. I'm going to make that my primary residence, but it needs 6 months of renovations. So I can't move in it yet.
Right.
Do I have to pay it then? Law's not clear. One of the things the law is clear on is that sponsor units will not be charged Pied-à-Terre tax. So if there's unsold units in a development, the sponsor will not have to pay the tax. But here's what, and we went to Albany and lobbied against this right before the pandemic in 2019. I said I'm not worried about the housing market. What I'm worried about is the city's economy, because the developers that build these luxury condos, which tend to be a lot of these that are going to pay this, but not as much as people may think. There are a lot of co-op owners, and there's a lot of, think about somebody that bought in Brooklyn 50 years ago, bought a townhouse. The value has gone up. They've held it for a long time. They've improved it over time. Now it's worth $5 million. Not because they got lucky and hit a lottery. It's just they've owned it forever. And they are permanent residents of Florida. These aren't rich people. These isn't Ken Griffin. You can target it and make a ridiculous video outside of his building, but there's always the unintended consequences that they don't seem to even ask about. So if the developers know that the demand is going to be lower, because there's certain parts of Manhattan where you're going to attract more foreign buyers and more pied-à-terre owners. So they're not going to build as many buildings, which means you're not adding to the property tax base, which means the construction taxes, the payroll taxes, the jobs at these buildings, the temporary jobs when the construction's going on, but these buildings have a lot of staff in them. All of that goes away. And we proved through some consultants who work for the city and state that this tax will actually lose money.
Wow.
Because the buildings that don't get built, we talked about this Friday over the phone. The transfer taxes, the mansion taxes, all the other taxes that are part of it all goes away. And, they think they're going to get $500,000 from it. The city controller said it could be as low as $340 million. Again, it's avoidable. And it's top weighted. This Ken Griffin apartment is going to pay like 1% of this tax.
Right.
You can't have one person paying 1% of the tax. That's a lot of money to lose. If
we steel man it, though, right, looking at it from the mayor's side of things and the problem that they're trying to solve, right, that home prices are too high. It's unaffordable for average New Yorkers. What's the answer?
This doesn't solve any of that because, we don't have proper incentives to build affordable housing. 485X is a disaster. All it's given us is a bunch of 99-unit buildings. That's all you see, because the wage thresholds kick in at too high a level that it's just 99. It's insane how many there are. they're not taking things away. They're adding. You know, we're still talking about a small percentage of all the units in the city. There are hundreds of thousands of co-ops and condos in Manhattan and New York City. But remember, 70% of the people here are renting. So it's not like, oh, I can't afford to buy the condo I want because somebody from out of town or a foreigner is buying it. That's not in my realm of possibilities. I could afford Knicks tickets for the finals before I could get an apartment like that. What they're missing is that as a politician, the very people you want to tax are the people that can't vote you out. And that's the way they view it. Like, who cares if they don't like me? What are they going to do? You know, if they come move here so they can vote me out, I got what I wanted. I wanted them to be paying New York City income tax again, which is only about a quarter of the tax revenue the city receives. So what I think is, you know what? Go tell the construction workers there's going to be fewer jobs out there. Go tell people who maybe didn't go to college, I'm sorry, the good paying jobs as building service workers are not going to be there to the extent. We're not going to be adding to that. You know, go tell all these people that. The restaurants, sorry, the people come in here and spend so much money and help support you. The shops that they go to, sorry, they're not going to come. You know, it's quick when they say that we don't see enough visitors here because of certain reasons involving certain people, but you're giving them a real reason not to come here. And at the same time, again, the Statue of Liberty's out there, and we're telling that everybody's welcome in New York. But we hear it all the time. It's just a way to say, look, and in fairness, when the mayor runs on that platform that I'm going to do this, he's doing it. I can't say he's not.
The unintended consequences outweigh the benefits. Any kind of benefit that you could see from a proposal like this or an actual law that you're passing like this. And the way that it got rolled out, and you alluded to the video with the hedge fund manager, Ken Griffin. I mean, just coming out with this attitude of,
and like sticking your face in the camera. And then what happens like right after that, Ken Griffin's people say, well, maybe we're not going to do that.
Right. I mean, one thing rich people can do is move. I mean, but if you think about someone like him, he's employing hundreds of people who are making minimum $250,000 a year each. Some of them making in the millions.
All I got to do is look out my window. They're right across the street.
Right. Who are each employee there is spending money, paying taxes, contributing to the economy. Some of those people are going to leave, start their own businesses, hire more people. He was going to build some like major office space that would employ construction workers to build that. Yeah. I mean, if you can go down the line, not to mention every single one of these people, the ones that have families and have kids that go to school, and it's a major spiral effect.
Yeah, you're not punishing the people you think you're punishing.
Correct.
Because rich people can live wherever they want, Shar says, right? I mean, he could say, you know what? Because he owns a lot of property in Florida. And he could say, look, I'm just going to work out of there.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why businesses might think about leaving New York. You know, obviously the taxes are higher and all that. But a lot of companies have made commitments. But that's kind of dependent on their people being able to live there and people that may want to work part-time one place and part-time another place.
Yeah. And also, where does it end? I feel like you already have this feeling like the government is endlessly spending your money. Right. And every time it feels like it has more, instead of trying to figure out how to fix their budget, all they're doing is expanding the budget and then coming to you and saying, sorry, guys, we're going to need more. It's like a kid with an allowance, right? You give a kid $20 a week, he'll spend $20 a week. You give him $100 a week, he'll spend $100. You give him $1,000. At what point is it going to be enough? Tell us when it will be enough, right?
And it's not like there's there was a shortfall that was handed to this administration, but that was addressed in other ways. Like, you're just taking the money because I want the money. I'll do better things with it. And I think that's, we want to talk about when will it end. How do you feel? You're probably chomping at the bit. You remember they were floating this tax on all cash purchases of $1 million or more. Yeah. Scott's like, yes, mortgages for everybody. You imagine now we're taxing people for something they don't do.
Right.
Does that make any sense to anybody? Now this tax is
Mm-hmm.
dead. It's not in the budget. But don't think it won't. You know, the Pied-à-Terre tax kept coming back for a decade till it got.
This is the start, right?
Yeah, why do you
Where
think
we-
this is not going to happen
Correct.
next year?
Correct.
He's 6 months into the administration.
So I'm, I know we're going to be wrapping up soon. Like where try to end on somewhat of like a positive note. Where is the opportunity here? So if you are a buyer in that, if you're an agent and you have buyers who are looking in that price range, does this give you an opportunity to buy something in this price range at an attractive offer? With the thinking is, I don't know if this tax is going to be in place forever. That
Well, it does expire.
Correct.
In 5 years. Now, I don't see any world in which it doesn't get extended.
Wouldn't it matter who the next
But if
mayor
you
is?
look at the landscape and how it's changed, and just going back to what was passed, before COVID, with rent regulations being permanent and other changes that were affected, the FAIR Act, which is like, oh, I'm helping get rents lower because now you wanted to pay the broker fee. It's like, but wait a minute, now the landlord's going to pay the broker and just tack on that to my
Raise the
rent,
rents,
and I'm going to be paying. They don't care. A lot of it is about the capital it buys them, the political capital, then actually helping people. By the time they realize what actually has happened, it's a little too late. But I think, look, if you're a luxury buyer out there, you have a little bit of maybe leverage. If you're already a primary resident of New York City, hey, yeah, I'm interested. You don't want to pay this tax. Good, I can help you with that.
Right.
And I think that's important. But like you said before, they're going to be meeting with their accountants. They're going to be meeting with their lawyers. How do we get out of paying this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, why don't I put my son here, my daughter here, my parents here, and then we're good, right? That's the way. And when a tax is somewhat easily avoidable, then, it's like the tax on all cash purposes. We never really saw a bill on it, so we don't know. Like, how much of a mortgage do I have to take?
All of a sudden, everyone has 18 cousins also out of nowhere.
Can't it? Got to be immediate family.
Oh, okay.
Got it, because
I
we
tried.
got that's actually in the bill. So you're talking about spouse, parents,
Yeah.
children, grandchildren, that kind of stuff.
But it seems like it's even difficult to anticipate what the taxes are going to be. If somebody was, okay, tell me what is the true cost going to be in 2 years?
Well, you don't know in 2 years, but what I can tell you is the tax roll was finalized last week. Fiscal year begins July 1st. You can go on the DOF website right now and look at what your market value is for your townhouse or your condo. Co-ops is even trickier, and here's where it gets really crazy. So let's say we all live in a co-op.
Yeah, who's going to?
So
frustrating.
I don't know what the value of my apartment is because I don't get a tax bill. The co-op gets a bill. Okay, and then you could say, well, if you own 10% of the shares, 10% of their market value is yours. Okay, do you know how many shares there are? Like I'm getting questions all the time. Like, what's this co-op going to pay? I said, well, do you know how many shares are in the building? We know the unit because it's in the listing. And then what happens if I don't pay? If I'm responsible, the bill is going to go to the co-op, right? The managing agent is going to say, Greg, here's your Pied-à-Terre tax bill. And I'm going to say, I'm not paying that. Guess who gets to pay it? The co-op gets to
All
pay
your
it.
neighbors. All
Right.
your neighbors.
And then your maintenance goes up and maintenance goes up, or you'll have a special assessment or however you're going to do that.
So we're gonna see it from a practical standpoint on the attorney's part is another layer of due diligence, right? So when I'm looking at a building now, do I need to ask, do you have any apartments $5 million or more that are pied-à-terres? Are they subject to the tax? How are you going to calculate it? Are they in arrears? What if this guy doesn't? What if this guy decides to sell below market and all of a sudden comps are not as good? There's so many.
Well, it also begs the
collateral
question, do
damage
they
that you-
change their rules? Do they say, you know what,
You can
we don't
sub.
want pied-à-terres.
Yeah.
You can sublet, and then, well, that at least can mitigate that. But, co-ops have struggled, let's be honest. There hasn't been a lot of appreciation over the last decade or so. We were talking about that before. And they don't have the amenities kind of. They offer a certain degree of comfort, and there's a lot of equity in those buildings. They have strict rules, so you can feel better. It's not a one size fits all. Some people want multi-floor living, you buy a townhouse. You want amenities and more freedom with your unit, you buy a condo. If you want to know your neighbors, and you want a lot of equity in the building, so you don't have to worry about people going into foreclosure, co-ops are good for that. So I think there's something for everybody. But Yeah, right now people are sitting in conference rooms scrambling. Like, what rules are we going to change? Because co-op boards are always looking to protect value in their building.
And then coming into 2026, we talked from January. We talked about hopefully this was the year of normalization. We realized rates were not going to fluctuate significantly up or down. They were right around the 6% mark. And that's when buyers feel comfortable coming in and out of the market. It's the unknown that's scary. And all of a sudden you throw this into the mix and you have no idea how this is going to play out. And all of a sudden everybody's like, all right, why don't I just sit back, see how this plays out before I get into it? And then that's where you lose a lot of transactions and a lot of money that would have otherwise been coming into the city.
Yeah, no, and we want people to come here. We want people to spend money. We welcome tourists. You know, these are tourists who also pay property taxes.
Right.
And, you know, I don't think they're taking apartments away from other people, residents who want to buy them. I think they're adding to the economy. I understand the logic that, hey, they can't vote me out, so let's tax them as much as we can. But you do wonder where it's going to end. And, you know, if a co-op comes with a reason for an assessment, right? Oh, we have local law, whatever. Like, two scariest words in New York City are local law. When you hear, we have to do this work, so everybody's got to pay, you go, all right, what are you going to do? I don't like it. Yeah. But it's like, you know what? We want more money from you just so we have it. And that's, to me, that's what's going to set people off.
Absolutely. It might be cheaper to rent a hotel, right?
I think a lot of people
for the 3 months a year here, the 4 months a year here.
I think a lot of people may think about that again.
Yeah.
Look, their attitude from the time we lobbied was they're just going to pay it. You guys are making too much out of this. They're just going to pay it. But as we saw with Ken Griffin, the reactions could be a little extreme, and they don't like to be told what they can and can't do. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we're talking about such a small percentage of the overall market. It's not like property values are going to crash here. The luxury sector will have its challenges, but I'm more worried about the economy because the buildings that won't get built and the money they won't get and all the other taxes they forget they collect from these people. And, you know, you're shedding jobs at a time where, you know, we always hear that college isn't for everybody. It's too expensive. These are good blue collar jobs in a lot of these buildings. They pay well. They're unionized. Like, you know, this is an opportunity. The construction work that will go on for years, the taxes they won't get from not only when people buy these sites, but all the individual sales, right? The sponsor sales and everything goes on after that. It's a shame that it goes that way.
Yeah, but to your point, the signaling and the messaging of it doesn't sit well with so many people. So even if it doesn't impact you directly as a potential buyer, just what it's saying about the administration right now and how they're acting and how they're behaving, what's next? You know, like, what am I signing up for? We don't know what's coming down.
And if you had any doubt whether or not they meant what they said when they were running for office, now it's clear.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when the federal government, you know, we're going to do these tariffs. Once they started coming and they came quick, like people like, okay, this now, of course, we have lawsuits and, you know, we got to give refunds and everything. But if a lot of times people write off what politicians say to get elected, it's like, they're not going to do that. No, and then now you have an answer on one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we'll see.
And they've already spent this money that they think they're going to get. It's already been spent. They're trying to catch up. And when they realize they don't make that spread, the budget's going to be out of whack already. The next year, they're spending more money next year.
It's not
which means
good.
They're going to have to find another way to raise that shortfall. And it's guess whose pockets it's
and
going
it's not good when the city's controller says it's probably going to raise about $200 million less than what you think. And we went through this, you know, and that's why instead of doing this in 2019, they increased mansion and transfer taxes. It's a more reliable revenue stream. You can borrow against it. It doesn't require a lot of legislation.
It's also a one-time
It's a one-time fee. Exactly. And you have Florida, who's looking to get rid of property taxes. You know, it's competition. It's something that they have to think about. And, you know, we don't see the mass exoduses from the city like we did in the 70s and 80s of corporations that were leaving left and right. We've seen more investment here. Even Amazon, who we famously botched their desire to spend a lot of money and employ a lot of people here.
Afterwards, the councilwoman said.
It's, you know, people still want office space here. It's still the greatest city in the world, but this is a bad idea, and it's going to be a loser for them. If they actually do the work and look at it, they're going to realize it's costing them money, not gaining them anything.
Competition is a great word to use for this. I don't think states and cities look at it that way, that we are competing with the other states that are out there where people can. Florida does.
Yeah,
Florida does.
That's why they're winning.
100%.
Well, and there's plenty of states that would love to have the jobs and people living there part-time and paying a lot for their homes and spending a lot of money when they're there. And again, I thought we were supposed to welcome everybody here in New York City.
Right.
We welcome everybody crossing the line. We're very pro everybody watching the show.
Except Philly and Boston.
And as a former St. John's student, anybody who went to Georgetown, Connecticut, or any of those rival schools.
You can't say Villanova.
I can.
No, you can't. Not this week.
No, I can't. I'm
Not with
gonna
our
let it slide.
Lord and Savior over
Jalen
here.
Brunson.
Well, let's hope that by the time we film next week's show, we're up a couple of games.
We
and
would
we're
have
feeling
2
good.
games by the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, Wednesday.
Game 3 will be
and
Monday
Monday.
next week. Yeah.
So that's when you'll surprise me with tickets to the game when we film.
Present it on the show.
That's right. Forget your sponsorship money. Tickets, we accept tickets. All right, well,
You
that's
should do like 3 buckets where the tickets are in one of them, and you need to pick. You had a
3-card Monty.
Exactly.
what is this? Let's make a deal. You can either have what's in the box or what's behind the curtain.
Friend.
And that reminds me of 7. What's in the box? What's in the box? My son saw that movie. He said he didn't like it. I said, he didn't like that movie. Yeah, man, the movie's great. Anyhow, all right, well, that's our show.
Great
Thank
show.
you, Shar Sedge, Scott
show.
Nadler. You forgot the loan daddy.
How's your heart rate?
I did forget them today.
I wasn't like breathing heavy or
doing
passing
great.
out. I can lose my mind without being like, I don't do it that way. Plus,
Did great.
all the energy has been just drained from me from having to deal with this tax for so long. You think I'd feel some relief, but I'm more worried about what it means and the ramifications of it.
I think you're also being humble of how involved you were. You were talking with some people way up on the chain here.
It's funny when you get in front of state senators and assemblymen.
It's amazing.
And budget directors, and there were people from the real estate industry that met with the governor on this, and some of the responses that you get back from them are kind of,
right.
oh my God,
You're
really?
you're running the state?
Yeah.
Did
But
you send them a link to the podcast?
we should.
Yeah,
We should.
That'd be good.
I'm-
That'd be a great way to follow up. By the way, it was so great meeting you, Congressperson.
Yeah.
By the way,
Well, I'll give you one.
Constructive criticism.
you might
in
want to
the-
check this out.
I'll give you one example without naming names. We went to lobby up in Albany at a state senator's office, and we made our case and we showed the research saying, look, this firm that you use for your own studies is showing that this is a loser. You're not going to make any money because you're going to lose all this other tax revenue, and you're going to lose all these jobs, and you're not going to grow the tax base of the city, which is something you should always look forward to doing, especially if you want more people to come. And he just looked at us and said, they're going to pay it. And then literally 5 minutes after we left, he went on Twitter and mocked us on Twitter, saying we deserved Academy Awards for crying poverty for the real estate industry. What some people don't get is, yes, we work in this industry, reminds you of that Down and Out in Beverly Hills when making fun of hangers, and Richard Dreyfuss says, it's hangers that close you, it's hangers that feed you. Like this, yes, this is how I feed my son. But most people that work in this industry care about the city.
It's bigger than
wanted to
that.
do well. I've worked here for 34 years. That's how I've made my money, because most people don't want economists in the suburbs. They want them. So I care how the city does. I want it to be, I want it to be run well. I want it to do well. We all do, or we're not going to have jobs.
That's true.
And I think we care. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't have spent, instead of just arguing, this is terrible, you can't do it, we went out and did the research. We had experts meet with them. And when they have a mind to do something, it's hard, and they ran on it, it's hard to get them off it. And that's one of the things I've learned, even going back to my
But they
days at
didn't
Redmond
even
in the
run.
90s.
I don't want to keep complaining. They didn't run on this. The first time you heard it was
No,
on
this
April
thing has been
15th.
lurking. The thing too is like this. By the time we got word that it was likely to pass, we saw the final bill, be published like 2 days before it was passed. So we couldn't even give people answers that they wanted until we saw the bill. And now there still is more questions than answers. Again, what if I'm renovating a new home I just bought? You're going to charge me for that? I'm not living in it. You know, I can't live in it. So, I mean, we need more guidance there. And it's just this whole phase 2 thing is laying out there in 2 years, which what if my Pied-à-Terre tax bill goes from 40,000 to 80,000? Because now you're using sales prices for the co-ops, which is going to jack up the market value per unit. How is that going to work? We have no idea. It's like, pass it, we'll figure it out later. And that's basically what they've done. They've kicked the can as far down the road as possible.
If it, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live, yes. Anyhow, that is the show.
Good to be back.
Let's go
And
Knicks.
Thanks so much for the support everybody gets. It gives us, and have a great week. And we will not talk about this tax next week, I promise.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.